welcome back to You Heard It From a CFP. My name is Matthew Coyle, and today is July 27th, 2021. Today we're going to talk about a question that my son actually asked me over this past week. Dad, what do you do? So we're going to talk about what financial planners do and what they should be offering at a minimum as far as services. 4 things. Let's dive in. Okay, so the long, hot, dry summer continues here in Minneapolis. I'm back in my office today because it's just too hot outside to do this video on my normal favorite place, which is the deck. So we are going to do this video today in the office, and it's actually about a topic that my son actually, he asked me in the car like 2 days ago. And he said, Dad, what do you do for a living again? What do you do? I'm not understanding what you do for a living. How do you make money? How do you help clients? What do you do? And I said, well, it's a great question, and I should put you on the payroll because that's how easy it is to create topics for videos. So this is a question probably a lot of other people have but are afraid to ask. What does a financial advisor or planner do for their clients, or at a minimum, what should they be offering? We'll start off with number 1, analyzing goals and understanding whether or not those goals are achievable and realistic. And if they're not, what could that person do to make those goals more achievable? Now, at a minimum, the advisor should offer some pretty robust statistical-based software that you probably would not have access to analyze those goals, analyze spending, make sure everything's inflation adjusted, and come up with some reasonable targets for you over the time that you've analyzed. So if you want to be at X dollars by age 65 or age 60 or 55 or whatever the number is, what can this person do to reasonably get to that level of income in their life or level of assets by that time? And how can they run scenarios, and what kind of scenarios could they expect based on their current trajectory? So that's number 1, analyzing goals and determining whether or not they're achievable. Okay, number 2, analyzing and suggesting investments. Now this is where the blurred lines get a little tricky sometimes as to whether you're dealing with an advisor or whether you're dealing with a salesperson. A salesperson usually has funds that pay them a certain more to sell them than other funds, whereas the advisor does not have any of that conflict of interest. So if you're working with a planner or an advisor, someone who's actually an advisor, make sure that they're actually giving you a list of funds or analyzing your investments in a way that is totally objective and not in a way that favors their economic interests, let's say. So, analyzing investments. Every investor should be working with an advisor who is working with software or tools that should be able to strip apart or analyze and break down what are they actually invested in. I see a lot of cases where people have 5, 10, 15, 20 different funds even, but they're all invested in the same thing, so they're really not all that diversified. They don't own a wide array of assets. An advisor, preferably, especially if you're a high net worth investor, should be giving you access to things like maybe some private equity or hedge fund type of investments. But for most people, at least be working with an advisor that can break down your portfolio, actually show you what you're invested in, show you what the historical rates of return have been on that portfolio, and really get you to understand, is this portfolio in my best interest? Or is it too risky, or is it not risky enough? The relationship between risk and return is often very interesting. Some people aren't taking enough risk and won't get where they need to go. And some people are just taking way too much risk and don't have to. So the advisor should be able to break down those investments, analyze a historical rate of return, and say, is this matching my goals or is it not? And that's a discussion around how much risk you want to take versus what the portfolio will yield or what the portfolio will do. So analyze your investments, take a look at them, and offer suggestions that are not reflective of the economic incentives of the advisor, but more a fiduciary approach, which is, are these investments appropriate for you? Is this the right path? And should I stay on this path? That's number 2. All right, rolling on. Number 3, what is the third thing that, in my opinion, every advisor at a minimum should be offering to their clients? Understanding your legacy. Now, by legacy, I mean what passes down to your kids, what passes out to your desired beneficiaries, charities, what have you. There are a lot of rules in the IRS code and the government code in general about how assets pass from one person to another. It's very complex. Sometimes even professionals misunderstand the rules. And one thing that an advisor should be doing for a client is to help people understand, how does one asset pass from me down to my family, to my spouse, to my son, to my charity, to my church, what have you. It's a very important topic, and a lot of advisors spend so much time on investments and goals they forget to talk about legacy sometimes with their clients. And it could be as simple as proper beneficiaries on an account, or how does my trust interact with my life insurance policy, or how does this asset pass over to my spouse if I were to die tomorrow? So getting your clients to understand what is their legacy, what do they want to leave behind, and again, is that achievable, is it realistic, and the way I have things set up, is it appropriate and realistic to expect that that's going to happen? And of course, involved and wrapped in all of this is minimization of taxes. Most people do not want to give too much to the government if they can help it. Understanding and working with the other person's professionals if they have an estate planning attorney or maybe a tax person that they want you to engage with. So things like that are at every level. All advisors at some level should be talking about that with their clients. And of course, you don't have to engage with them that way, but it certainly is your best interest if you're paying them to do so. So that's number 3, understanding your legacy, what would be left if you were to be gone tomorrow, and how things would pass as efficiently as possible. Okay, fourth and finally, last but not least, what should an advisor do for their clients at a minimum? And the last one I would call think strategically. Now, there are a lot of decisions we make, financial decisions, that can be a bit impulsive at times. I mean, we're all human beings. We make impulsive decisions. It just is what it is. Myself included. I'm not excluded from that. But an advisor, if you have access to one that is a true resource, a true fiduciary advisor, should be able to act as a sounding board or a second opinion for some of these decisions, like should I pay my mortgage off early, or should I make this business investment over here, or should I take this life insurance policy out? There's all these little decisions that some are really small and some are really large. And the advisor should be able to at least explain to you or kind of walk you through how that's going to affect you 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and whether or not this is a good decision or potentially one you might want to pass on. So thinking strategically, I think, would be the fourth thing I would identify. So to wrap it all up, determine if your goals are achievable, understanding and analyzing your investments, understanding your legacy, and acting as a resource or helping you think strategically. Those are the 4 things I would say that every advisor at a minimum should be doing for their clients. Now, there are other things. Maybe your advisor offers tax services in-house. Probably most don't, but there are quite a few that do. For an extra fee, of course, that's reasonable. There's estate planners that offer that as well, in-house estate planning. So there's a number of things that you could have a relationship with an advisor for. Many people choose to use separate advisors in those areas and have them all kind of interchange their ideas and engage with each other for the benefit of the client, and that's perfectly fine too. So if you have the resources to do that, that's great. You should do that. If not, at the 4 minimum things I've just identified, those should be what your financial advisor is doing for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a very nice week, and I will see you next week. Thanks again for watching.